Hello and welcome, Success Grid Nation, to this new episode of the Success Grid podcast. My guest today, his name is John Horn. He is the managing partner at StubGroup, a premier Google partner ranked in the top 1% of all Google partners worldwide. John has had taught digital marketing to more than 90,000 students online. John, welcome to the Success Grid podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome to be here. So let's first start with what exactly do you do and what do you mean by digital marketing?
Yeah, great questions. So what we do at StubGroup, which is my company here, we focus on digital advertising, and digital advertising specifically in our case, meaning Google ads, Facebook ads, Microsoft advertising. We really focus on the paid search engines and then paid social aspects as well. And we're helping businesses find and connect with customers online using those channels in as cost effective and as profitable a way as possible. And that's why businesses hire us to help them out with that.
Yeah, amazing. So do you think now, do you help entrepreneurs and business owners online? And I believe also you help brick and mortar businesses, I think maybe. So do you think any business should, when they start from the beginning, should they go immediately to online advertising, or should they, let's say, build it organically through SEO and these kind of things?
I think online advertising is very important for probably the majority of businesses. There's always going to be an exception to every rule, certainly. But the reality is that we as consumers, we go online to find pretty much whatever it is, whether it's a product to buy or a service, or even, find out what's in my local area to go check out. Even if we plan to go somewhere physically, we're still often finding that information online. And so for a new business that doesn't have existing relationships with customers and is looking to get their name out there and make those connections, online is typically the place to do it. And then one of the beauties of advertising is you can expedite the process of making those connections. With SEO, for example, if you're a new business with a new website, it's going to take months or sometimes even years to really get to where you want to be with ranking. And as a new business, you don't have that time necessarily to wait to get there. So advertising can help make those connections much more quickly.
Exactly. So how do you work with your client, for example, or how do you advise people to get off advertising and go running with it? Because as you mentioned, you are working with people are working with Google ads, Facebook ads, like Instagram ads, which is basically Facebook, and Bing ads. Is that something that still people actually use Bing? I don't know. I never hear
It is.
someone says Bing it, go Bing it. So
Bing it's still out there, it's still chugging along. Definitely it doesn't have anywhere close to the market share that Google does. But honestly, it does have enough market share that we do use it for many of our clients as kind of an extension. If Google is working well for them, if Google search is working well, there's a great chance that Bing ads, I guess they call it Microsoft advertising now, but still call it Bing because that's what it was for so long. There's still a place for that. But yeah, when a client comes to us looking for help, they're usually in one of two situations. Either they've been doing digital advertising and they've been doing it themselves, trying to manage it in-house, or maybe they've been working with another agency. And then there's something that they're not satisfied about. Either they think they're wasting money and they think that working with someone who's more expert is going to help them save that wasted ad spend. Or sometimes it's just, hey, they think there's a lot of opportunity out there that they don't know how to capture, or maybe their current agency is not being proactive enough or strategic enough in figuring out how to capture that opportunity for them. And so a lot of businesses will come to us looking for us to kind of take over what they've been doing and then build upon it and help them grow and take them to the next level. And then sometimes you have, kind of going back to what you mentioned earlier, startups, brand new businesses who are just getting into the space and they need an expert to help them connect with customers and make people aware that they have a product or service that meets their needs. And so with those kinds of businesses, we're helping them figure out, for both kinds of businesses, we're figuring out, okay, what's your target audience? What are your goals? What do you measure as success as a business? Is it orders? Is it a specific return on ad spend that we need to hit in order to be profitable for you? Is it number of leads that we're sending to your techs? Yeah, there's all kinds of different business models, obviously, but figuring out what
let's talk about this important aspect of things. So any business online, whether it's selling a product or a service, what are the things that they should focus on at the beginning. Okay, and then that I think maybe determines their budget starting off things, right? So what are the things that the basic understanding of things to go and advertise?
Absolutely. So they need to understand their numbers. If they're in the process of selling products, if they're, say, a product-based company, they need to understand what are my COGS, my products, what's my profit margin, what can I profitably spend to acquire a new customer, and also looking at that lifetime value of, are we expecting people to come back and keep making repeat purchases? What does that lifetime value look like? Maybe it's worth spending the cost, maybe the initial cost per customer acquisition is worth as much as the initial money we make from that customer, because we know they're going to come back and make 3 or 5 or 10 more purchases down the road. So it's understanding what is the numbers. Same thing on the service side of things. What is our close rate? So if we're getting leads coming in the door, people calling and saying, hey, I need help with whatever, at what rate are we able to turn those into paying customers? What's the value of those customers? And then really it's a matter of working backwards from those things to figure out, okay, well, how many leads do we need a month to hit those sales targets? Then how many clicks from relevant people do we need at kind of rough conversion rates on our ads to get that number of leads? What's it going to cost for those clicks? What's that cost per lead going to be? And kind of work our way back to figure out what budget we need to set based upon those numbers.
Yeah. So starting from the beginning, speaking of budget, what is the initial budget any business on average, let's say, should be looking at? Is $100 a month or a day enough, or should be certain numbers that you are considering talking about that you are experienced with? A lot of platforms like Google, Bing, and Facebook.
Yeah, it's a great question. That's a question that we get asked very often by businesses reaching out to us saying, hey, what should our budget be? And it's very much something that we have to look at for each company and figure out what makes sense for them. And so there's some specific things we'll look at. First of all, it's what is the price point of what they're selling? If they're selling a $10 widget, or if they're selling a $2,000 service package, those are obviously going to be very different things. If it's a higher price point, it's going to take longer for people to make a decision to purchase after they've clicked an ad. So, and it's also going to be a very different type of person that we're reaching as compared to, a $10 impulse buy. So the higher the price point, the longer the timeline it is typically to get that order. And so the more budget often you have to invest into reaching those people and nurturing that over time to get them to place an order. So that's part of it. Part of it certainly is just how big is the audience that we're going after. So if it's a local plumber, per se, well, obviously they have a specific geographic area they can serve. There's a specific number of people who live there. And so if you're a plumber in a little rural town versus if you're a plumber in New York City, your budgets are going to look very different because it's just a very different, market there.
The price of the click is different from different countries and different cities and targeting, right? Yeah. So speaking of this, should people, for example, go on all platforms, like for example Google and Facebook together, or should they stick with the example one platform like Facebook only or Google only?
What we like to do is we like to focus on what I'd call the lowest hanging fruit and then scale from there as we see success. So I'd say for a lot of businesses, Google is often the lowest hanging fruit because you're able to reach people who are specifically searching for what you sell right now. And you're getting in front of the right people and you're getting in front of them when they're looking to make a purchase or a decision. So there's, Google search is kind of the closest, often lowest hanging fruit you can get to what you're trying to sell. With something like Facebook or Instagram, it's usually more of, hey, we've identified the right types of people who are interested in our products. Let's now make them aware that our product or service exists. And let's start building a relationship with them over time as we show them multiple ads and hopefully get them to our website and get them into our funnels and things like that. Mm-hmm. So often we'll start out with one platform. Often it's Google for clients, and we'll see some success. We'll capture that low hanging fruit. And then we'll take what we've learned from that as well, and what messaging, what ad copy is working well, and look to scale from there, whether that be Facebook or Instagram or other types of channels.
Yeah. So when we are talking about online advertising, we are talking about a lot of elements together. So you mentioned the ads, the copy of the ad, let's say the landing page themselves. Maybe what a lot of marketers now doing is funnels, like building funnels to get the customer go through certain steps that they want. So
Yes.
do you help your customers with all these kind of parts with the ad?
Yeah, it's usually a team project where we're working with them, thinking through messaging, promotions. What are we trying to obviously to sell to customers? What are the different steps in educating them upon that so that they can make an educated decision and understand why what we're selling to them is valuable. And for some industries, that's a very quick thing. Let's say plumbers as an example. If your pipes are leaking, well, you don't need to go read a white paper about it. You need to find a plumber right now and get them out.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if we're selling, let's say, a software as a service product, well, then we might have funnels in place where we're saying, hey, here's great content that's relevant to you. People start reading that, and then we get their email address in exchange for a white paper with more information. And then we keep nurturing and building that relationship until they ultimately decide to go with that software. So lots of different scenarios.
How much important is the copy of the ad, the title of the ad, maybe the image, if there is certain images, like for example Facebook, you have to put images, I think, or videos. So how important the copy is for the ad?
It's very important, very important. On the Facebook side, as an example, that's all you've got to get their interest is the ad that you're showing to them. And so video works very well often on Facebook and Instagram. Certainly, pictures, having the right picture that fits with what you're selling and the target audience you're going after, and testing is vital as well to see, hey, what works, what different combinations. On the Google side, Google search, for example, you have multiple considerations. You have what's a compelling headline for my ad, but also you have what's a compelling headline that is relevant to the keywords that are being searched. So Google knows that my ad is relevant and gives it a high ad rank and says, yes, this is the right ad to serve to this person. So it's often a combination of both art and science and making sure that the ads are relevant to the machines and also relevant and compelling to the people who are going to see them.
Cool. So Google gives you a kind of indication if this ad is more relevant or irrelevant to certain audiences that you are already targeting.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're targeting keywords, for example, is saying, I want my ad to show up for these keywords, you can get a sense from Google for how relevant they think your ad is to those keywords. And then ultimately what really matters is, are people actually engaging with that ad? What Google calls the click-through rate. What percentage of people are actually clicking on that ad? And that's the best metric to Google to tell them how relevant an ad is, because people click, must be relevant. If they don't, obviously it's not.
Yeah, exactly, because it shows in Google pages. So I think that's called like an impression, right? But when people when people click through the ad or the page, it means that they want or looking for the something that they are actually looking at. This is something suitable for them.
Exactly. And that's a big part of how ads are often so relevant to you when you search on Google. It's not billboard advertising. It's not, hey, the person spending the most money throws a big ad right there. It's all about relevance. Google looking and see what are people clicking on, and this ad must be relevant to their search because 10% of people who see it are clicking on it. Let's show this ad more often, because ultimately that makes Google more money, and it's a good experience to people because it's irrelevant.
I think I read an article, like because of Google, like has, like we mentioned earlier, like 80% of the search market than Bing. It's Bing about 20. So there is a lot of potential there on Google to go for bigger audiences with time as the ad gets more clicks. So there is a huge potential there. So speaking of that, what are the things, for example, that you are seeing from your clients, whether they are doing it in-house or having an agency doing it for them, doing it wrong? Are they not focusing, for example, like we mentioned, on the title, which is something very important that captivates let's say the audience or the one who's searching online Google?
There are a lot of what I'd say common mistakes that we see. I think one of the biggest common mistakes is going back to where we talked about, you have to define success and track success. they're not using what's called conversion tracking. They're not tracking what happens after people click the ads. And that is so important to track for a couple of different reasons. One, obviously, you need to know if your ads are working or not. You need to know which aspects of those ads, which ad copy, which campaigns, which keywords. And if you don't have conversion tracking, you can't do that. But then also, the way that Google and Facebook and the platforms are continuing to trend, they have a lot of campaign types and bidding strategies that are based upon conversion data. So if you are giving good conversion data to Google and you can tell them, hey, I want to pay, $50 per lead, and you set that up, and Google can make real-time optimizations and changes to what you're bidding for different cost per clicks and things to try to achieve those metrics, and often do it in a much better way than if you're just trying to manually set bids and kind of guess at things. So a lot of businesses just don't have conversion tracking set up. A lot of businesses, they're wasting money on irrelevant traffic. So they're not doing a good job of looking at what people are actually searching for, looking at what this called the search terms report, and it's saying, oh, well, this is not relevant to us. I don't want to spend money on that traffic, and adding negative keywords to get rid of that. And then certainly ad copy as well. Yeah.
I also read once that there is like something called the buyers keywords and the non-buyers keywords, I think. So who's putting ads needs to focus on the, let's say, buyers keywords, more on the get this free and this get free. So if you put free on Google, I think it's not allowed, right? Or is it?
You can advertise free things and target people looking for free stuff, but you're absolutely right that it's going to be a very different type of person. And so if you're going to go after people who are more what we call tire kickers, just looking for something free, well, then you're going to have to factor that into what you're selling to them, what your conversion rates are going to be. You might still be able to make it profitable, but that traffic's going to behave very differently than someone who's using more of what you mentioned, those buyer keywords of, hey, they're looking to actually spend some money and buy something or find something right now.
Yeah, exactly. So can we talk about the ads themselves? Because from what I know, Google and Facebook, for example, have in their platform what they call target audiences, right? And they have, for example, countries. So from the advertising point of view, what is the best strategy to do that? For example, if I want to create an ad on Facebook or Google, and I want to target a lot of countries, for example, I can sell my product digitally, for example. Should I put worldwide targeting on the same ad and focus more on the keywords themselves, or should I create ads separately for each country? What do you see about this issue?
I would say often we would separate them differently per country. So there's kind of obvious things that you want to take into account. So different countries may spell things differently. The UK has a lot of words they spell differently than the US, and you want to look as relevant to them as possible. So you'd want to make sure you're using the UK spelling over there. The US spelling over here is kind of an obvious one. But then you also have even different words that people use to talk about things, car versus automobile versus, there's all sorts of different things there, where one country you might say, hey, car loans at X percentage rate, and that's awesome, but you might need to use a different term, a vehicle or something else in different countries. So you've got those kinds of things. And then also they're just different cultures, often different countries. People respond to messaging and ad copy differently. And so it's helpful to be able to test different approaches per country and see, oh, hey, this culture behaves, maybe they on average care more about the speed with which they get the service, whereas this one cares more about the cost or the credibility. And obviously there's a very, very broad things, and there's going to be all kinds of different people within every culture that care about things differently, but there's often some trends that you can jump onto and figure out by splitting that ad copy out per country.
I actually once watched a video on YouTube. Basically, they were doing, now we talked about that clicks differ in their prices on different countries. So for example, in India, a click is maybe half a dollar, 50 cents. And in the US, it's $2 for certain niches, let's say, right? So I saw a video that basically teaches, like, for example, you can have an ad, create this ad, target India, and get lots of likes there and comments, and then maybe stop it there. And because when people see lots of likes and comments, they will probably re-engage with it. And then when you stop it running in India, you can run it in the US or the UK or whatever it is that you want, because the buying power, I believe, for example, if we're talking about this example, in the US and the UK is more powerful than the buying power in India, right? Is that a good strategy or?
Yeah, no, that absolutely can be, especially more on kind of the social side of things, Facebook or Instagram, where people can see how many people have engaged with a post and where the algorithm is really focused on that as well. I could see that being a good strategy for sure.
Cool, because the cost of things ads can accumulate very quickly, even on likes. So eventually,
Yes.
a business does not want to have many likes on the post. They actually want people to go buy whatever they are selling.
Yes. Yeah,
So yeah,
likes are not helpful to your bottom line. You got to
no,
get that money coming
not
in.
likes, not even followers. At the end of the day, it's about the sales, right? So as we
100%.
talked about, yeah, so we talked about the how important is the, let's say, the metrics that the customer wants actually from it. So the most important thing is that I am saying is the basically the sales. So how do you work backwards, like you mentioned earlier? Like for example, I have a $10 or $100 product. Do you look backwards on how we can best convert people to buy this product?
Exactly. Yes, we look at their numbers, their price point, what is their profit on that, and then two, what are their goals? So sometimes you'll have clients who say, our goal right now for the next 3 months is capturing market share. Profitability is not as important to us. We want to get as many customers as possible because this is a fast moving market and we need to establish dominance. And so then it's figuring out, okay, well, what does that mean to you? How much market share are you trying to get? How much can you afford to lose right now on, advertising versus the cost of goods or versus, revenue coming in, and then figure out those types of goals. And that's, again, just goes straight back into how much budget client is open to allocating and where we're going to allocate that budget for them.
Yeah. So we talked about a little about in-house or outside help in advertising, right? So what do you think is the best for people to do? Should they hire inside people and make them learn about advertising, or is it easier to hand it out to experts who have already done that?
I will freely admit I am biased as I run an agency. So obviously it does well for me when people go with that agency approach. But I think there's certainly pros and cons to each approach. I'll go through some of them. So some of the advantages of working with an agency is that you are getting access to experience across a wide variety of different clients and different verticals. If you hire someone to just come on board in-house and work with your company, all they have access to is your data, your strategies, your customers, and it's hard to really figure out new things to test to realize, oh, this is working over here, let's try this over here, and that kind of thing. So sometimes you can get kind of siloed and get a little bit behind the eight ball with in-house. With the agency side of things, you also often tend to have a higher level of access to to support from the platforms you're using. So Google, as an example, we're a Premier Google partner, so we have a dedicated team who can help us out with some of those hard problems and things and give us access to betas and features that an in-house marketer might not get. At the same time, obviously, if you have someone who's just dedicated full-time working for you in-house, they're likely going to have more hours of their day that they're spending on your campaigns. They're not having to spend that across different clients. So there's certainly value that comes from that. But at the same time, it's not all about how much time you spend on accounts. It's what's the quality of the time and the strategy going into that. And I think often what we'll find is, we don't need as much time maybe on the agency side as an in-house marketer might, because we do this all day, every day. We've solved this problem for 5 other clients this week, and we know exactly what to do and how to help, a client solve their current problem.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit. We talked about video, I think a little bit. So do you think that video nowadays, especially with a lot of people pushing content online and on social media, video converts better than text?
I think it depends on the context. I think video is usually much better at grabbing attention and interest if you are, especially if you're doing kind of push marketing. So Facebook, Instagram, where you're trying to get in front of somebody and say, hey, here's what we do. Video can capture attention so well. On something like Google search, text is still amazing, and video is not usually much of an option there, except in the organic side, because they're typing in a text answer, they're looking for a response, boom, here's the text ad, and we're golden. But even when you get someone from that ad to the website, having video on the website, on the landing page, can often be incredibly helpful to increase the conversion rate, because you can communicate so much more through video, and you can show so much more than you can through text.
Exactly. You can demonstrate certain things. If it's a physical product, maybe you can show what can it do, what are their benefits, and these kind of things. So you mentioned there Google, of course, they are still text advertising there. There's no video, and I don't know how they will evolve. But what do you see the future of online advertising? Because there are other platforms that other than Google and Facebook. There are the pop-up and push-up and pop-up, I think it's pop under and pop-up. Yes, this is how it's called. And there are other platforms, but no one is talking about them. Like brain something is called Outbrain.
Outbrain, yeah.
These kind of things, what they are calling the native ads, these kind of things that you see on websites when you are scrolling through an article. To me, to be honest, these kind of things, they are annoying. This is why I made my website successgrid.net. I made it ads free, no AdSense, no ads whatsoever there, because when I go through these websites, I'm annoyed with them. So what do you think about these websites that are doing what they call native advertising?
Yeah, native advertising, I agree. Sometimes it can be very annoying to have to deal with. It's one of those things where a lot of
they are very good. They are working perfectly because they are like in the mix of the website. It's not like they are that much annoying.
Yeah, and it really comes down to how relevant and just valuable too are those ads. I've definitely seen valuable stuff where I've clicked through and said, hey, yeah, actually I want this. They got it right. It was good targeting. This is something I'm interested in. And I think Taboola and Outbrain are two of the bigger native ads advertisers right now, and they I've seen success for some clients who are using those. At StubGroup, we don't spend as much time there. We're more focused on other platforms, but I've seen some good success from clients who've tried that out as well. I think kind of where, to your question, where are things going in digital advertising, something that is really important and is going to continue to become more important is who has first party data. And so what I mean by that is Amazon, for example. Amazon has this massive customer list. They know your email address, they know your phone number, and they have an ecosystem where you go and spend your time.
They have the credit card already on file. So
exactly, it's so easy to give your money to Amazon, and they know so much about you. And their ads business is actually booming right now, growing exponentially because they have an ads platform. They allow people to show ads on Amazon. They also allow people to pay to have their products on Amazon promoted and different things like that. And so they're in a great position right now, especially because with some of the different tracking realities we have right now with cookies being on their way out, there's a lot of platforms like Facebook that are having a harder time tracking, going back to that success, that conversion aspect of proving to advertisers that the money being spent there is effective. Whereas a platform like Amazon that has first party data, it's all there. They can show you everything. They can tell you everything about what's going on. And so they're in a good spot right now.
So what would you say one takeaway for the Success Grid Nation to give them advice on if they want to start an online advertising, what should they do?
I would say define what success means to you. First of all, what is it you want to accomplish from your advertising? It shouldn't just be throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. It should be really thinking through and planning through what does a successful campaign look like, and what do I actually need to invest to make that successful? If you have $5 a day to throw at something, you're probably not going to get much out of that because it's just not enough to see data. And you got to think through, what do I need to invest, and am I in a place to invest this money and give it some time and test different things to see if it works? And then too, I'd say, as with most things, you're going to learn things faster and get better results usually if you work with an expert. So if you can find someone to come alongside of you, whether that could be an agency, someone you hire in-house, a freelancer, try to not learn with your own money by wasting it and then saying 3 months from now, oh, I realized what we should have done. Go with an expert, pay them some money to say, okay, we're not going to waste those 3 months for you. Don't do X, Y, and Z. Do A, B, and C. And you'll usually be in a better place.
Awesome. Well, where can people get in touch with you, John, if they want help with kicking off their advertising journey, I think?
Yeah, best place would be our website, which is StubGroup.com. You can see more info on there, and you can reach out, schedule a free conversation. We can take a look at what you're doing, what your goals are, put together some ideas for you, and see if we're a good fit to help you out.
Awesome. Well, John, thank you for being here today with me on this episode of the Success Secret podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed our conversation.